Good afternoon. How is everyone? We're in the home stretch, a lot of good dialogue already, so hopefully we can cap it off strong here. All right, to start things off, I want you to remember your first Uber ride. You remember it? Now, if you've never used Uber, then I want you to at least imagine yourself in this scenario. So you heard a lot about the application. You decide to finally download it to your mobile device. You open the application, you create your account profile, credit card information, you put in your profile picture. Then you put in the destination, you summon your first vehicle, and in real time, you can see the vehicle coming to pick you up. It says it'll pick you up in 5 minutes. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, what a great experience. So you maybe toggle over, check stocks, sports, social, email, whatever it might be. 5 minutes go by, you receive a notification saying the car has arrived. Sure enough, you look out the window, it's matching what's on the device. You go outside, you enter the vehicle, you start heading towards your destination, and as you're approaching your destination, that's when things got weird for you. Remember this? Your first Uber ride, as you're approaching the destination, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, what happens next? How do I complete this ride? Some of you might have been thinking, okay, do I need to pull out my credit card and swipe my credit card? Well, there's no credit card machine inside the vehicle. That doesn't need to happen. Then others of you might have been thinking, oh, do I need to pull out the application and execute something to complete the ride? That doesn't need to happen. And then others of you, if you're a millennial like me or Gen Zer, you really start to panic because you're thinking, oh no, does this driver expect a cash tip? That's a problem, right? For those chuckling and for those of the emerging generation, because we left our cash in the 90s. That driver won't be giving a cash tip. So one of these three scenarios is rolling around the back of your head, and hopefully that first Uber ride you had an experienced driver that eventually turned around, gave you a very sour look, and just said, leave. We're through, you can go. And so you were a little thrown back, you stepped out of the vehicle, you closed the door, the car drives off, and that's when the feeling hit you. Do you remember that feeling? It was a feeling of that was effortless. That was a seamless experience. Now, whether you know it or not, and no matter your generation, that effortless and seamless experience you just encountered, that's happening 1 million times a day around the world, that effortless and seamless experience is becoming an expectation that's rippling into every other aspect of your work lives and your personal lives. However, for the emerging generation who are having more and more and more of these effortless and seamless experiences at every turn of their lives, their expectation and that ripple effect is happening exponentially faster. So it's creating a new breed of customers and clients and employees and future leaders. And so all this technology that we're about to see and talk about has really created a generational divide. So today we're gonna unpack that generational divide, and I'm gonna give you some strategies to help close that gap. So here's where we're going today. We're gonna be first gonna talk a little bit about the generations. Who are they? Why is this a relevant topic? What's different than perhaps the past? And then once we understand the generations, we're going to talk about strategies. I'm going to give you 4 specific strategies on how to better lead and work across generations. And usually I'll take questions. We won't have time today, we're running a little bit behind, but I'll let you know how you can get in contact with me if you have any questions. I want to add as much value as I can outside of this finite time I have with you. All right, so we're going to do some live polling. So pull out an internet-connected device. That could be your phone, laptop, tablet, shoe, wallet, I don't know, whatever's connected to the internet. Pull out your favorite, your favorite internet browsing services, and I need you to go to this link, pollev.com/livepoll. And as you're typing in this URL, it's critical that you ensure your device doesn't autocorrect to love poll. That's going to be a completely different experience, okay? It's happened before. Live poll. All right, so here's what's going to happen. When you arrive at that link, when I prompt the polling slide, you'll simply see the question, and you'll see all the potential responses. You just tap or click whatever one you believe to be correct, and you'll see your results live on the screen. All right? So our first poll of the day is simply, what is your generation? And usually if I can advance the slide fast enough where no one's chimed in yet, it's always Gen Z and millennials that come flying in first, right? Didn't even have to tell you to take out your device. You were already on it. So I'm always curious to get a makeup of the room without doing that very archaic thing of raise your hand, right? And I also want to get you warmed up to technology today because we're going to be using this throughout the session this afternoon. So it looks like over half are millennials, and we've got some Gen Xers, boomers, and we've got a few Gen Zers. So this is fantastic. We've got all four generations in the room today that we're going to be talking about and unpacking further. So that's great. Keep your devices out and hot. We'll be using the service moving forward this afternoon. All right, so here's a snapshot of the generations. The middle column is done by age as of this year. On the right side, that's how large these generations were at their peak. These are US numbers. And you'll notice there's two asterisks in the bottom right. That represents how large those generations were. Unfortunately, they're not that large anymore due to folks passing away. But it gives you a good sense of how the generations have stacked up over the years. Millennials, of course, are the largest generation in the US. They're the largest generation on planet Earth, which is one of many reasons why they've been so highly talked about and scrutinized, because they're just a large cohort. But anytime you and I talk about generations today and in the future, it's absolutely critical that we note this. Generations are clues, they're not absolutes. Generations are clues, they're not absolutes. But in my opinion, I think you're going to agree with me after our time together, they're very big clues on how you lead, communicate, collaborate, work. So the better understanding you and I have of each generation, the better equipped we are to thrive in today and tomorrow's multi-generational marketplace. But don't forget, today and moving forward, generations are clues, they're not absolutes. All right, so let me give you a couple of data points on why you and I are experiencing more generational friction. The average human lifespan of someone in 1900, do you have a number in your mind? It was 31 years old. Isn't that shocking? That is incredibly shocking, right? And now that's global average, right? That's global average, and it's the average between both male and female. But if you contrast that with today it's 72 years old. That's extraordinary. And for those doing the math, that's a 41-year increase. Just absolutely crazy. Because of advances in technology, because of advances in medicine, you and I are living longer, right? A lot of that work attributes to a lot of folks in here and all the extraordinary work you do in biohealth. So also to note too, to melt your minds even further, they now say the first person to celebrate their 150th, their 150th birthday has already been born. So imagine for just a second, what would it look like, or more importantly, what would it feel like to have a midlife crisis at the age of 75 years old? Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, our friends in 1900 would be like, that's mid-age? I can barely get to my 30s. That's crazy. So, because of advances in medicine, because of advances in technology, you and I are living longer. If we are working longer and living longer, if we're living longer, we're certainly working longer. So you and I are working and communicating across 4 different generations, but in the very near future, we're going to be communicating and working, collaborating across 5, 6, 7 different generations in the very near future. So, my friends, the tensions you and I experience communicating, connecting, leading across generations will only intensify moving forward. So we've got to get our hands around this now if we're going to effectively navigate this moving forward. So let me give you just a couple data points on how the generations make up the workforce. Here's the 2019 numbers. As of 2016, that was the first year that millennials became the dominant generation in the workforce, another reason why they've been so highly talked about. And that blue sliver might be somewhat purple to some of you. That blue sliver there is Generation Z. They're the next generation poised to flood the workforce. And moving forward, they're going to be coming into the workforce at a pace we have never seen before. So by 2025, this will be the makeup of the workforce. 3 out of 4 workers globally will be of the emerging generations. So let's pause for just a minute. I want you to absorb this slide, these visuals, and I want you to think about the way in which you work today, or perhaps the way in which you study today. And I want you to compare that with just 5 years ago. I bet in those 5 years, a lot has changed, right? The way in which we communicate, the different technology or processes and procedures we're using, the pace of work, just the pace of life, a lot's changed in just 5 years. So fast forward to 2025, when more and more digital natives begin stepping in decision-making roles, How does the industry change? How does work change? How does our personal and work lives change? My gut says, I'm sure your gut's telling you the same thing, there's going to be a lot of change. So again, this is why it's a relevant conversation, because I believe if we understand generations, more specifically the emerging generations, they give us data points into what's next. So if we understand it, then we can position our leadership, we can position our communication, we can position our organizations to thrive in a very turbulent future. So let's do another poll. What do you think goes in this blank? And you shouldn't have to hit the refresh button. You shouldn't even have to hit the back button. You should see this question show up automatically on your devices. And I'm curious, what do you think goes in the blank? 52% of workers say they're least likely to get along with someone from another blank. Yes, of course, planet is the tongue-in-cheek response here. But I just read some interesting research a few weeks ago saying that over 50% of millennials would actually consider vacationing in outer space. I thought that was so fascinating. So that planet response might be a lot more relevant in the very near future. All right, so this is the only time I'm going to do this to this fine bunch of individuals, and the correct answer is not up there. The correct answer, of course, I'm looking for is generations. You got it. Some of you saw that train coming. And the reason why I removed the correct answer is because I wanted to get your gears turning. I wanted to make a poignant point. And actually, generations actually trumps all of these other diversity metrics that are up here. So yes, generations causes the most tension at work. Yes, so 52% of workers say they're least likely to get along with someone from another generation. And unfortunately, my friends, it's not slowing down. This is a trend that will only continue because 62% of Generation Z anticipate challenges working with baby boomers and Gen X, yet only 5% of Gen Z anticipate challenges working with millennials. So the data is very clear. There's a very clear gap between the established generations and the emerging generations. And if we're not first aware that that gap exists, and then we're not equipped with strategies to close that gap, you and I are going to find ourselves more and more disconnected from our colleagues, from the folks in which we serve in our communities, from the folks in which our services extend to. So now more than ever, we've got to get our hands around this so we can close that gap, create more generational cohesion and unity. And so that's our goal today. So let me give you a little, let's look at how we can overcome generational bias. Because whether we know it or not, we all have it. It might be conscious for some, it might be unconscious for others. So to unpack this just briefly, I want to take a quote from our slavery-abolishing 16th U.S. President, Abraham Lincoln, who said, "I don't like that man, I must get to know him better." Such a powerful quote. And you know this to be true. There's a wealth of information today, but there's certainly a poverty of understanding. There's so much flying at us. And in today's high-flux, info-inundated, and multi-generational world, it demands that we seek more understanding. It's human nature for all of us to seek the quickest response. We too often seek the viewpoint or the answer that validates our worldview. And oftentimes that shortcut, there can be a lot of misunderstanding that happens. And so if we don't like that view, technology, policy, or generation, of course we're really dialing into generations today, we've got to get to know it better. That's how we overcome generational bias. We get to know them better. So today I'm going to unpack all the generations so that we get to know them better and again can close that gap. Here's another example as to why you and I are experiencing more generational friction than ever before. Take a look at this clip.
Kind of like grandkids equals free tech support.
Oh, Lord. Oh, look at you. So great to see you. None of this works. Come on in.
The reason we're all chuckling at this is there's a lot of truth here, right? And everyone in this room, no matter your generation, we've been on one side or the other of this equation, haven't we? Now, there is a lot of truth here, and it's very easy to laugh past this, but I think that it represents a very strong seismic shift that's happened. So go with me here. This is the first time ever that we have an emerging generation that's coming into the workforce that has skills and knowledge that previous generations don't have. That's never happened before. And you see it represented here in this clip. Generation Z and many millennials were the chief technology officer of their household. They were helping mom and dad or grandma, grandpa troubleshoot a laptop, how to use an app, how to use TikTok, and fill in the blank. And so now more than ever, there's this emerging generation that's got skills and knowledge that previous generations don't have, and that's causing lots of tension. It's causing lots of misfires. It's causing lots of tension and really friction in the workplace. So you and I, if we want to eradicate that and close the gap, we've got to be aware and we've got to start getting our hands around this. So again, this is why it's such a relevant conversation, and I'm so glad we are having it right now. All right, so let me give you a little, let's kind of level set, all get on the same page that technology's changing everything, really. And I want to give you a few examples of really how this is playing out so we all can be on the same page. So what's going to happen, I'm going to give you an example of an organization, I'm going to give you an impressive stat about that company, and then I'm going to give you an even more shocking stat. And the undercurrent to all of this is really to shape and to make the point of how fast technology is moving and how it's changing all of our work styles and how it's changing behaviors in general as well. So let's first look at Halo Top. It's a popular ice cream brand. Halo Top grew from 230,000 in 2013 to more than 100 million last year. That's an impressive stat. But even more shocking, they have no company office. All 75 employees work remotely and use the chat app Slack to communicate. That's even more shocking, right? How can you have that type of growth and have no company office? Well, you and I now live in a very different world. Technology is enabling that. Software automation, they have sew bots that can produce 1,142 t-shirts in just 8 hours. Very impressive, but even more shocking, that is the work of 17 humans completed without any human intervention. That is crazy. That type of change, that type of ripple effect can only happen in today's exponential times, and technology is enabling that. Fortnite, a very popular online game that many of us know and love. Fortnite launched an iOS mobile version, and it was downloaded by 100 million people in just 5 months. 100 million people. Just to give you a little context, I believe it took over 20 years for the automobile to reach 50 million people. So they did that in a fraction of the time, which is just incredible. But even more impressive or shocking, the in-game purchases alone, they netted $1.2 billion in revenue in just 10 months. That's super impressive. So again, but that type of reach, that type of scale, that type of impact, it's just unprecedented. But you and I now live in very unprecedented times where oftentimes stats like these are becoming the new norm. And then finally, Bird, whether you know it or love it, the e-scooter brand. Bird operates in 120 cities. They have over 2 million unique riders and recently surpassed 11.5 million rides. Even more shockingly, they've only been in business since September 2017. Again, that type of reach scale is just unprecedented. So technology is changing, and we all know that, right? You can feel the ground moving beneath your feet, but oftentimes it takes us taking a time out from our very busy lives to coming to great events like these, where we can take a breath, we can create some margin, we can see things like this, we can hear great other speakers and fireside chats, and we can start connecting dots that we haven't connected before. And we can begin making commitments to ourselves and our teams and our organizations that we need to start thinking differently. We need to be more innovative because this is the world you and I now live in. So I want to break all this down. I want to boil this all down to what technology is specifically changing. And I think when it comes to work, really just in general, I think technology is changing 4 things in a big way that impact all of us. The number one thing is it's changing the company structure. Again, think about the Halo Top example. Labor is no longer centralized. The modern workforce is global and distributed. Number 2, information flow. Information is no longer centralized. People are informed and empowered. Leadership approach. Influence is no longer centralized. A network approach is replacing hierarchy. And lastly, roles and responsibilities are changing. Skill is no longer centralized. AI and robotics will force reskilling. Think about the software automation, those sew bots. That's a good example for that one. So these are the 4 areas that technology is changing. That's impacting all of us, no matter your generation. All right, so if I could boil it down to the 2 things that are causing all of this change, it's these 2 things. It's increased influences and abundant access. And the reason, let me just take a quick sidebar, the reason I'm painting this bigger picture for you is because, yes, the emerging generations are causing a lot of change, but the bigger picture here is all of this, all the technology. But what's fascinating about the emerging generation, the next generation, is they're putting a face to the change. So if we understand their behaviors and some of their experiences and expectations, it influences or it can give us data sets on how we pivot or how we need to position ourselves in the future. So let's first look at increased influences. So in the past, not too long ago, when you and I lived in small communities or villages, there weren't very many things that influenced our behaviors, were there? I mean, the weather perhaps influenced where we settled or how quickly we would move around the country. Resources for food affected and influenced our decisions. A landscape would impact where we would live or how we would settle. And then finally, just people, those that were inside of our tribes, our close family members, those all influenced our decisions. But there wasn't a lot that would actually influence our decisions. So you contrast that with today, and oh my goodness, today, everything influences us, right? The weather still influences where we live. It's not so much about food, but really about maybe how nice certain restaurants are or the type of food. Cities, still our immediate friends impact us. Our education, media, technology, podcasts, social media, gaming, work, more communication, print media, capital, music, conversations, all of this stuff now influences you and I's decisions. So it shouldn't surprise us that the world's moving so fast when all of our influences our behaviors are changing very quickly because there's all these new influences that have never been present before. So that's a reason why things are changing rapidly. The other reason that things are changing is because of abundant access. Abundant access. So, of course, all of us have access to the Google machine, which is fantastic. And quick side note, for some of you Generation Zers in the room, did you know that Generation Z, the entire generation of Generation Z, is younger than Google? Even as a millennial, that makes my hips hurt when I think about that. It's just crazy. So literally, that entire generation has never known a world where the world's information has been curated into a blank search box. You better believe they're gonna have much different behaviors and expectations than any other generation just because of that reason alone. So all of us have access to the world's information, but now we all have smart technology we're never outside of arm's reach of this technology. And of course, we can access the largest how-to library ever assembled, YouTube. We've got access to the largest professional network ever assembled in LinkedIn. Kickstarter allows us to get access to capital. Square, my kids, no longer do they have to take cash when they create their lemonade stand in my neighborhood. They can accept every major credit card. That's incredible. I'm all in on that. Netflix, you can get the world's premier content delivered right to your phone. The world's best, most highly rated products can come straight to our front door. Airbnb and Uber make travel effortless. Access to tools like Slack and Zoom make working more effortless and seamless. You and I have access to this. This is in the palm of our hand now. And it's getting even closer to our bodies. Right now with wearable technology, you can check your to-do list, you can monitor your health, the weather, you've got access to artificial intelligence, you can pay all now on your wrist or closer to your body. So thinking about all this stuff, here's the bottom line when I want you to think about access. Access leads us away from average. If there are better employers, superior services, or improved products out there, they will be found. You are empowered consumers. Everyone in this room, you're an empowered consumer now. You can go to your favorite store and you can price check in the aisle. You and I are empowered consumers. Also in the same way too, we're empowered employees now too, where if we feel dissatisfied, if we feel disengaged, we're a finger swipe away from going somewhere else. So this access, the world, how fast things have moved, and really the big thing is access, that's keeping all of us accountable. We've got to bring better skill sets to work. We've got to create better teams and better organizations. We've got to create better products and services because the bar has been raised in today's exponential times. All right, so catch your breath for a minute. I've thrown a lot at you. We're about to move into our strategies, but I want you to just take a beat. We're just going to be scratching the surface here, and there's a lot to unpack here, but I'm not going to leave you hanging. So you can email me if you have any questions. Email me. I know I'm a millennial. I do know how email works, and I will use it for this group. So email me if I can help you in any way. I have a podcast, so if any of you listen to podcasts and want to fold this into your listening, you can search it. It's called Next Generation Catalyst. We've got over 100 episodes. We interview Fortune 500 leaders on the future of work and how the multi-generational and emerging generations are impacting work. So you can eavesdrop on in some of those conversations. Also, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably where I'm most active. I share daily insights. Would love to connect there. And then if you want to go even deeper, I've got 2 books available. I've got the Millennial Manual, and then the end of this month, I'll be releasing my 2nd book, which is all about Gen Z. So just know if you got a lot of value here and you want to take your conversation or take your learning a little bit further, this would be a great way to do it. All right, so we talked a lot about generations, who they are, why it's important, why today's different, right? We live in exponential times, technology is rapidly evolving. So now let's look at some strategies. And specifically, I'm going to give you 4 strategies on how to lead and work across generations. So let's start here, though. We got to get a good understanding of what does the next generation want from work. I think that's a good place to start because, again, I think if we understand the next generation, they give us data points into what's next. So the 3 must-haves at work for the emerging generations. Number 1, they want a better boss. Top talent view effective leaders as a must. Number 2, they want a brighter future. Top talent have a proclivity to be future-oriented. And number 3, they want a bigger vision. Top talent want to connect work with impact. Now, you might be looking at these 3 things going, you know what, Ryan, doesn't every generation want these things? Like, why is this different for the emerging generations? And my short answer to that would be yes, I think every new generation does want, or every generation wants these 3 things at work. I think if you're honest with yourself and you boil it all down, these are the 3 things we're looking for at work. Here's what's different, though. Here's why today is hyper unique and why the emerging generations specifically are very different. For previous generations, these 3 things were nice to haves, but for the emerging generation, these 3 things are conditions of employment. Remember, today's a very connected world. If we're feeling dissatisfied or disengaged, we're a finger swipe away from going somewhere else because we've got access. So these are now conditions of employment. If I don't feel like an organization has these 3 things, I'm going to go somewhere else. If I'm not getting these 3 things while at the organization, I'm going somewhere else. All right, so we're going to move into our first strategy now, and each of these strategies are really going to fall into one of the 3 buckets that I just shared with you, so keep that in mind. But let's do another poll as we tee up our next strategy. There's obviously no right or wrong answer here. I just want you to, what is your personal preference when it comes to communication? If there was one way in which you could communicate, what would it be? All right, overwhelmingly, it's face-to-face, followed by email and then instant messaging. Excellent. Well, I always put other in there because I'm never sure if there's some other new technology I'm not aware of or new form of communication. But it wasn't too long ago, someone responded with an other, and it was a little bit of a smaller group, and so I said, hey, whoever put other, would you be brave enough to stand up and tell us what that other was? And this gentleman was so excited to tell us what his other was. He stood up, he puffed out his chest, and he said, nonverbal communications. And I swear, people started moving away from him the rest of the session. They were like, who wants to work with someone doing nonverbal communication? Unbelievable. True story. All right, so the goal of this slide is to raise your blood pressure just slightly. Because if you think about it, there's so many channels for us to communicate now more than ever, isn't there? And just in this room alone, there's 7 different preferences. So if you want to communicate with someone else at today's summit, or folks in your industry, or folks on your team, you have to think through 7 different modes of communication in which to communicate with somebody. That's complex. That can be very frustrating. And now you overlay on top of that, each generation has a very different preference as it relates to communication, and that, my friends, has created a very complex communication environment. But I'm here to help, so let's unpack communication. So let's look at how each generation, the 4 generations in the workforce, how do they approach communication? So for boomers, their communication, their summary of it is formal and direct. Generation X, informal and flexible. For millennials, it's authentic and fast. For Gen Z, transparent and highly visual. Their view of communication, boomers face-to-face, phone and email. Gen X, email, text, Facebook. Millennials, text, Instagram, Skype, Slack. Gen Z, Snapchat, Bitmoji, FaceTime, YouTube, WhatsApp, Twitch. Basically anything that has nothing to do with face-to-face communication, right? Or do they? We'll put a pin in that. Maybe we'll come back to that. And then lastly, their attitude towards communication. Boomers need background info details. Gen X want to keep it professional. Millennials, efficient, mobile first. Gen Z, mobile only and voice. When I say voice, I'm referring to speaking to a smart object or using artificial intelligence. If I think about my children, I have 3 children under the age of 5 at my house, and they've never known a world where they're not within speaking distance of artificial intelligence. And they're talking to Alexa as if she's part of the family. That will fundamentally rewire that entire generation. It's really, really fascinating. All right, so each generation obviously has a different preference and expectation of communication. So to further tease this out, I want to give you an example of how the communication divide can happen across when we're communicating. So let's say you had the productive and efficient idea that you should call a Gen Zer. Like you thought that was a good idea. This is just hypothetical. I know none of you would actually have done this. But here's what would happen if you decided you were going to call a Gen Zer. You pull out your mobile device, you would open up your phone application, you type, you put in their phone number. It rings once and goes right to voicemail, right? Because the Gen Zer on the other side of that line, it rings once. They have no idea what that function is of their phone. They quickly hit decline. They panicked, right? No idea my phone was a phone. Decline. What was that? Yikes, right? So it goes to voicemail, and at that point, the voicemail box is either what? Full or, okay, maybe some of you have done this. All right, keep tracking with me. So yeah, it's either full or not set up. So let's say it's not set up. You get the automated response. You begin leaving your voicemail. In the middle of that voicemail from the person you just called, you receive that text message. And now you're not happy, right? You're thinking, you're clearly not on an airplane or in the shower. You're somewhere where you can communicate, and you've chosen to decline my call. So you're a little livid. You wait till your anger dissipates. You go back to the voicemail. You finish your voicemail. There's a big, long pause in the middle of that voicemail. You hang up, and you think to yourself, gosh, there was a lot of really, really good and helpful information in that 2.5-minute voicemail. Somebody's got to listen to it. They've got to especially want to listen to it. All right, so let me text them. You send off that text, and just as you're about to go on about your day, thinking this is all wrapped up, they come right back at you. That was a complete waste of your time, right? You are now back at square one, and all of that was fruitless. Well, we can't blame Gen Z, because where do you start checking your voicemail when you've never checked your voicemail? I mean, where do you even start? You might not even know how to check your voicemail, right? The reason you and I, actually, before I tell you that, speaking of long voicemails, my mom, I think you guys might want to hear about this. My mom just started a podcast, and if you want to listen to it, you would just need the passcode to my voicemail. Then you too could experience my mom's podcast. Oh, I love you, Mom. She's watching. We're somewhere. All right, so yes, so this just represents this is one example of how the communication can break down across generations, right? And so no matter your generation, we've been on one side or the other of this equation. That's why we were chuckling through the whole thing, because it's very real, and we've all experienced this. And so if we find ourselves in a situation like this, I want to offer up this strategy. I want you to defer your communications. Use generations as clues and defer your communications. So in that example, if you want to get in touch with a Gen Zer, you're not going to leave them a voicemail. We all know how that ends up. So you might want to think about sending them a text. And the vice versa is true. If the emerging generation is trying to communicate up generations, they are certainly not going to DM them on Twitter or send a group me or whatever else. You're going to maybe want to pick up the phone, schedule face-to-face. Now, this sounds complex. It can sound frustrating, but this is the new norm, right? Adjusting our communications, this is the new norm. This is the very complex communication environment you and I are now living in and working in. So we've got to be agile if we're going to want to effectively connect across generations. So let me give you one example. I'm going to do my best to give you as many examples as I can so you can really crystallize what this looks like for you, potentially. And I want to use the example from John Deere. John Deere is a client of ours. And a manager once shared with me that he texts his next-gen employees every afternoon before driving home to provide correction or direction. And he's woven this into his daily routine. So every time he gets in the car before he drives home, before he even starts the car, he'll text. And he'll text his next-gen employees and just give them correction or direction. And he said, Ryan, I'm always surprised when I do that simple task that they're online later that night executing, or they're the first ones to the door the next day because they've got clear objectives. And it was delivered in a format in which they could consume and act on. So it's just one example of how in a multi-generational marketplace, we've got to be more agile in our communications. Let's do another poll. What do you think their answer is? What has the strongest impact on employee engagement? What do you think? There's probably a case to be made for all of these, but there is a correct answer that I'm looking for. All right, looks like most of you have said recognition, and it looks like it's split between challenging work and progress. Well, the correct answer I'm looking for is progress. Progress is the correct answer. And most of what I'm about to share with you really stems from the book, The Progress Principle, which is some extraordinary work that the author has done as a Harvard professor. So a lot of what we're going to see there is going to come from that. And normally if I tell you the answer, and I leave the slide up there, folks will change their answer to the right answer. You guys did not do that, so kudos to you. I have bigger expectations than you than when I started this. Maybe I spoke too soon. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, well, oh, no. Yeah. For those of you not playing, you can hit clear your response. There's a button at the bottom. Clear your response, and then you can go get the right answer. Oh, no. Should we wait? Does 100%? We need 100% here? All right, well, congratulations, 34% of you. For the rest of you, good afternoon. My name is Ryan. Welcome to the show. I hope you learned something. All right, let's talk about progress. I think you're going to find some of this very fascinating. So before we get a little bit unpacking progress, let's talk a little bit about work. Each generation approaches work very differently. Let's look at how the 4 generations do that. For boomers, their summary of it is a place. For Generation X, a means to an end. Millennials, a vehicle. For Generation Z, life. You know, the lines between work and life for Gen Z are blurring. They're blurring for all of us, but really for Gen Z, who doesn't have any other frame of reference, it's very blurry, where work stops and where life picks up. So to them, it's all just life. Their view of work: boomers, it's responsibility. Gen X, to drive outcomes. Millennials, fulfilling. Gen Z, earn and learn. Their attitude towards work: loyalty is rewarded for boomers. Gen X, work hard, play hard. Millennials, work smart. Gen Z, want to work fluidly. Work fluidly has come up time and time again on my podcast when we're interviewing these really innovative leaders, and what they're seeing, and data actually supplements this, that the Gen Z is looking for opportunities to try multiple roles inside the organization, like within the same week. They're interested in perhaps accounting, HR, IT, whatever it might be. And so it's a new way of working, right? It's a new perspective. And so a lot of organizations are trying to figure out, how do we rethink the structure of organizations, and what would it look like if we can enable people to work more fluidly? So very interesting. All right, so why are video games so engaging? I want to first look at the data here, and then I'm going to make a point and give you a strategy here. So for any of you that are gaming, I'm sure everyone in this room either is a gamer or you know someone that games, and it is extremely, extremely engaging and very, very popular, especially with the emerging generations. So let's look at the data. 66% of Gen Z say gaming is their main hobby. 53% of 23 to 36-year-olds pay for gaming services, which is outpacing those who pay for cable TV. And that's a brand new stat. That's like maybe a month old, and that's the first time that's happened, that gaming service is now outpacing cable. That's huge. And then this last statistic, I'm glad everyone's sitting down. This is shocking. Are you ready? Ready for this? 948 million hours, or over 107,000 years of streamed gaming content are watched in only 1 month at work. It's not at work, it's just in general. That some of your jobs just hit the floor, like, what? Some of you were just found out. That's extraordinary, right? That's crazy. That number is just mind-blowing. But it's a testament to how engaging gaming is. It is fascinating how gamers will fail time and time and time again, but they keep coming back to the game. And why gaming is so engaging is because of progress. Games inform players of where they started, how far they've come, and what's left to accomplish. Wouldn't you as an individual, or wouldn't you want people in your organizations to have this level of engagement, right? Wouldn't you want to be this engaged and this enthralled and this committed to your work? I think the answer to that is yes. And the goal here, or the solution, is progress. And it's hard for us to, because our work lives are so busy and sometimes it's so much intangible, it's hard for us to see the progress. But again, why gaming is so engaging is because of the progress bar. You know where you started, you know how far you have come, you know how far you have left to go. There's leaderboards, so you're constantly getting the sense of progress, that things are moving forward. And so if we want to engage any generation, we need to be dialed in on this idea of progress. So my strategy number 2 for you is acknowledge progress. Recognize and reflect back the progress you see in others. And I would also say, get better at reflecting the progress that you see in yourself as well. And that could be things like completing a goal, accomplishing a small win, overcoming an obstacle, learning a new skill, or even achieving a breakthrough. These are all things, if you see in your colleague, if you see in the folks that report to you, be quicker to acknowledge the progress, because that's, whether we know it or not, that is something as humans we crave. We're looking for that progress. So let me, before we go into our final 2 strategies, I'll give you a quick example, because we're talking about work. I want to give you an example of how this next generation is approaching work through a humorous story. True story that happened to me not too long ago. I was speaking to a group of about 500 folks, and we did a Q&A portion. There was a gentleman in the front row who asked a great question. I did the best I could to respond to his question, and I ended my response to his question. I said this, because if not, your next-gen employee will use LinkedIn to find a new job by lunch. Now, I was trying to be a little bit overdramatic, not because I was standing on a great stage like this, but because I was trying to nudge that individual to some action. I was trying to really light a fire and to get him some urgency and to do something. But when I said that comment, there was a brave young professional in the back of the room. She stood up and she shouted out across 500 people. When I said that comment, she shouted out, "Why wait until lunch?" She said that. You can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, the crowd lost it that day. It took me 5 minutes to get everyone back focused. But we sat in that comment because it was so indicative of this next generation. And what we found out that day was everyone in the room, and this group, you are the same, we are empowered consumers, as I mentioned earlier. We can go to our favorite stores, pull out your device, you can price check in the aisle. We're empowered consumers. But now the emerging generation, they're empowered employees. In fact, all of us are. But this generation doesn't have they have a different frame of reference. And so if they're feeling dissatisfied, if they're feeling disengaged, they're literally a finger swipe away from going somewhere else. And clearly they're not going to wait till lunch. So the bar has been raised. If we want to attract and engage, and if we want to effectively keep a multi-generational workforce, we've got to start thinking differently, because the work has changed, life has changed. And so we landed on this today, or when that comment happened, we landed on this. Mobile technology, ubiquitous connectivity have empowered the next generation. And again, I want to underscore what we talked about earlier. Access leads us away from average. So this was a good example. If I'm at an average organization, I have access to other organizations. I can go to Indeed or Glassdoor or LinkedIn, and I can see all the other organizations that are rated better, have better benefits, that employees have said are better than other organizations. I have access to those new opportunities. And that's never been a factor that organizations and leaders have to combat with. And so now we've got to start thinking, how do we elevate our leadership, our communication, our organizations to thrive in a very competitive and turbulent 21st century workplace. All right, so we're going to go into our third strategy, and I want you to think to yourself, what do these 4 examples have in common? And it's going to lead us to our third strategy. So number 1. Scholarship fundraisers felt more motivated to secure donations when they had contact with scholarship recipients. Number 2, lifeguards were more vigilant after reading stories about people whose lives have been saved by lifeguards. Number 3, cooks were more motivated and worked harder when they saw those who would be eating their food. And 4th, radiologists were more accurate reading x-rays when shown a picture of the patient. So in your own mind, what's the common thread here in these 4 examples? I bet many of you can spot it. I bet many of you see it. So the common thread here is this. Workers are connected to the people benefiting from their labor. That's the common theme in all 4 of these examples. So when workers are connected to the people benefiting from their labor, it improves performance. When we have a very crystallized picture of who our work is benefiting, that improves performance. That gives more meaning to our work. It allows us to be engaged, and this is generationally agnostic. But of course, the emerging generations seem to have a growing appetite for finding meaningful work. And to me, that's because they're moving up on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Food and shelter, for many of us, it's taken care of, right? We live in a very abundant world now. So it shouldn't surprise us that the next generation are looking for more connection and self-esteem, belonging when it comes to work. So my third strategy for you is to identify the beneficiaries of the labor. Connecting workers to beneficiaries of the work creates more engagement, motivation, allows employees to transcend their task lists. So if you're leading a team, a multi-generational team, try to identify those folks that are benefiting from the labor. If you're an individual contributor, try to figure out who is the person that's benefiting from my labor. Try to get a crystallized picture of what that looks like. And here's how you can do it. You simply ask why repeatedly. Ask why repeatedly. So let's take an example. Let's say for a team of folks that were cleaning hotel rooms, this is how it would work. You would ask them, why do you clean hotel rooms? Because that's what my boss tells me to do. That's the knee-jerk response. But then you keep asking why to get to the bigger meaning. Why does that matter? Because it keeps the rooms from getting dirty. And why does that matter? Because it makes rooms more sanitary and more pleasant. And why does that matter? It's because it provides clean space for customers to relax and rejuvenate. So asking why repeatedly will get you to the beneficiary. And that's going to draw more engagement, more focus, more passion in our work if we do it for ourselves or those in our organization. All right, I think this is our last poll. So if you haven't got one right, and the last one was a layup, this is your last chance. The emerging generations want blank 50% more often than other employees. What do you think? All right. Looks like over 50%, around 60% say feedback. Second response, career advancement. Again, I think there's a case to be made for any one of these, but the correct answer, and it looks like majority of you got it, the correct answer is feedback. Feedback. So we're gonna dial into feedback and we're gonna unpack how you can deliver better and improved feedback. So before we do that, let's look at leadership. Because when we talk about feedback, usually it's coming from leadership, right? Someone that's above us in the organization. And each generation approaches leadership very differently. Let's look at what they are. For boomers, their summary of leadership is authoritative, Gen X hierarchy, millennials coaching, Gen Z networked. Their view of leadership, boomers are at the sage stage. They're sharing their time-tested wisdom and experience. Gen Xers are Sherpas. They've been to the top of the leadership mountain. They're now coming back down to bring up the next generation of leaders. Millennials are soldiers. They're maybe one, second, or maybe third time leaders, so they're still in the trenches figuring out how to lead. Do I want to continue to lead? And Gen Z, they're students. They've had few opportunities to lead, if any, and so they're being a student and wondering, should I lead? How will I lead? Etc. And their attitude towards leadership. For boomers, no news is good news. Gen X, semi-annual reviews. Millennials, routine check-ins. Gen Z, 360-degree real-time feedback. And we saw it in the poll, right? The emerging generation, they want more feedback, and we can see that appetite evolving over the generations. So let's dial into this idea of feedback, and to kick us off, I want you to take a look at this quick clip, and then we'll give you the strategy. Take a look.
Charlie, the demand on this network, it is increasing by the second.
It's crazy, huh?
And people are relying on it more than ever. We cover more than 99% of all Americans.
I can't imagine living without it. It's a place where people can come share knowledge and ideas. It's beautiful.
That's deep, Charlie.
My selfie just hit 100 likes. 100!
AT&T is building you a better network.
I mean, again, you can see the generational differences just in media, right? Another commercial. What I wanted you to see this commercial is because it shouldn't surprise us that the emerging generation wants more feedback, because they've grown up with it, right? They've grown up immersed in a feedback-rich environment. They've been able to post something online and get feedback in the forms of likes, retweets, comments, shares, etc. So they're certainly bringing that appetite inside of your organizations and inside the workforce as well. And if we're honest with ourselves, moving from point A to point B, if you don't get feedback for an entire year and you all of a sudden get off course, you're going to get way off course. And it's going to be really painful coming back to try to get back on course to get to your goal at B. But if you're moving from point A to point B and you're getting real-time instant feedback and you're able to course correct on the fly, you're going to get to your goal a lot quicker. And now there's tools and technology that are enabling more real-time feedback. So it's really encouraging the development and helping folks and organizations get to those goals a lot faster and smoother. So let me prove to you why quality feedback improves or elevates in performance. So there was some recent research done where they took a group of 7th graders and they asked the entire group of 7th graders to write an essay. So they all got the same assignment to write an essay. Then all of the teachers collected those essays and they divided them up in 2 groups. So 2 groups, equal groups of the essays. And then for group A, the teachers were instructed to just give this feedback. They wrote on the papers, I'm giving you these comments so that you'll have feedback on your paper. So when they gave that type of feedback, 40% of students revised and resubmitted their papers. Not a bad outcome. But if you compare it with group B, the teachers in group B gave this feedback. They said, I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations and I know you can reach them. When that type of feedback was given on group B, 80% of students revised and resubmitted their papers, so it doubled, and they made twice as many corrections as group A. So not only did double the amount, but they did more work than group A, with just a subtle change in the feedback. And so what happened here is they gave high standards plus assurance, and that doubled performance. We were talking in one of the fireside chats about feedback, and I was having some conversation at lunch as well about feedback, and the dialogue was going around the idea of, one, we don't know how to ask feedback very effectively, and 2, we don't really know how to deliver it very well. And it's certainly an art, it's a skill that you have to cultivate. But we live in very complex social engagements. We have very complex work environments, much more so than 7th graders. So we have to go a little bit beyond what we see here. So yes, we have to still do high insurance or high standards plus assurance, but we also have to add direction and support. So this, my friends, is the formula for effective feedback. And so it might look something like this. You might say, hey, I have high expectations for you. I know you can meet them. So try this new challenge, insert whatever that might be, and then if you fail, I'll help you recover. This is effective feedback. This is feedback that will work across any generation, but also keep in mind the emerging generations seem to have a growing appetite for it, so this will work especially more so for that demographic. So my final strategy for you is this: try the feedback formula. And here it is: high standards plus assurance, direction, support. And use this formula to inspire belief, transform work ethic, and instill confidence among a team. So this is a formula you can start. And some of you that are not in a position where you're of leadership, you can try this with peers, right? So often we're being asked to give feedback on a presentation or how we approach something, and so try this next time out with those individuals as well. All right, well, those are our 4 strategies. I have a video and then a closing comment to wrap things up for us. Unfortunately, we don't have Q&A, but remember, you can email me if you have any questions. But I want to give you even more. I'm always so grateful for the attention. I think in today's world, attention is the new gold, right? There's more clamoring for our attention than ever before, so for you to give it to me for 60 minutes is amazing. So as a bonus, as a thank you to that, you can take your learning to the next level if you text BONUS to this number. It'll look like that. You'll receive a response back. I'm going to give you all of our digital courses available for free. That looks like something like this. So we go even further. I gave you 4 strategies today. There's 20 plus strategies in that library. It's around generations, around the future of work, how to manage the emerging generations, et cetera. So hopefully that would be helpful. So certainly it can be a way for you to continue your learning, but also you can share it with the folks in your organization as well. I hope that's a huge value add. Okay, well, our time is winding down. I've got a final clip, and then I'm going to close with a closing comment, and then we will be done. So take a look at this clip. It really wraps up everything nicely. Take a look.
Proud of you, son. GE, manufacturer.
Well, that's why I dug this out for you.
It's your grandpappy's hammer, and he would have wanted you to have it.
It meant a lot to him.
Yes, GE makes powerful machines, but I'll be writing the code that will allow those machines to share information with each other. I'll be changing the way the world...
You can't pick it up, can you? Go ahead. You can't lift the hammer.
It's okay, though. You're going to change the world.
I mean, again, you can see the generational divide, right? And so I want to leave you with this. A "this is always how we've done it" mindset is a slippery slope to irrelevance. I hope I've made that abundantly clear today. And so what we need to do instead, we need to prioritize why over the way. So stated differently, we need to prioritize the mission of our organizations, but we only date the approach, because the approach is ever evolving. So again, prioritize why over the way. And so take GE in that last clip, in that last example. If they were married to the approach, if they were prioritizing the way, the approach, then they'd have all their new hires picking up a hammer, and they would have been out of business, right? No, but instead they're leaning into this next generation for machine-to-machine learning, et cetera. So my closing thought, as we're wrapping things up and we're talking about, and hopefully gave you some helpful strategies to close the generational gap, I think it's really critical that we note this, that we should not ask, nor should we want this next generation to work like previous generations did. Instead, I think we need to be encouraging them, we need to be equipping them to find the new frontiers of work, and especially to find the new frontiers of biohealth. Thanks for having me. Hope that was helpful. Cheers. Thanks, all.
I'm just going to say a few more words on get back. You have to stay just a few more minutes, then you get to go to the reception. I'm looking forward to it just like you are. So, as a lot of you know. Thank you to our speakers today, and certainly thank you to Ryan Jenkins to end our day. What a great presentation to end, and it's very timely with our talent campaign and going into phase 2. I just say, I was busting a gut back there. The phone call, I call my son, that's exactly what he does. He texts me and goes, "What's up?" I'm like, really? You have to text, "What's up?" Pick up the phone. That's what's up. Pick up the phone. Seriously. Oh my God. It was so funny. And also, the other thing that at the beginning when it said in the 1900s you only lived to 32 was it? I'm like, oh my God, I'm long dead. So thank God it's 2019 and I'm still here with you guys. As you've heard, we're in phase 2. We're going into phase 2 of our talent campaign. So we do want to show you our third video. And this one, again, will be starting in October. So we would now like to show you Catalent.
Even something as small as a molecule can improve lives. All you need is a catalyst to make it possible. More than 20 years ago, in a University of Wisconsin-Madison lab, a group of researchers were looking for that catalyst. What they discovered was an innovative technology that could turn molecules into medicine. This technology, when combined with a talented workforce, became the catalyst that led to the creation of Catalent Biologics, and the catalyst that helps create life-changing therapeutics. Catalent helps its partners realize the potential of their molecule and accelerate its development, so more patients get the treatment they need when they need it. With every new treatment that is delivered to a patient, there's another molecule waiting just behind it. That's why Catalent continues to grow. Catalent's success is measured in how many lives it can touch. And even just one person can improve a life. All you need is a catalyst.
So one more time, I'd really like to thank Digital Ring of Madison. They have done a phenomenal job, and also Cat Cow Animation. She really worked really hard this last month to finish these 3 videos. So just want to thank them one more time. One other little announcement, we had someone lose, it's like a USB-like piece. It's green and white and has soy, S-O-Y on it. If you happen to find it, see it when you look down, please just find one of the staff members and give it to us. off to the very end here, career fair. For a lot of the students, along the reception is the career fair, and here are all the companies that are participating in our career fair. So please check them out. We also have two virtual reality companies, so please, they are really a lot of fun. Like I told you this morning, I did Arch Virtual, so please, besides drinking, eating, and talking, go check out the virtual reality. Yes, I know, I bring up the drinking, right? And then, of course, we really want to thank these two sponsors. These two entities have been great partners to BioForward and to many of our companies. So we want to thank Hausman, Johnson, and Park Bank for sponsoring our reception. So we really do want you to go and enjoy this reception. So please go forth determined, breaking down the walls, climbing every mountain, working with one another across generations, finding your allies at work, creativity, energy, bring it all forth, and let's tell this world what's happening in Wisconsin's biohealth industry and our research institution. So like I said with this, no pink. I really, you got to just let go sometimes and just change it up. I'm not doing it. So we're going with oldies. I'm staying nostalgic. I'm going across generations. Jackson Brown is even older than I am. So we are ending with Jackson's Brown. Stay a little longer. Please enjoy one another. And I will probably dance for a little bit on the stage to stay a little bit longer. Thank you so much.